right, here to break down the top 5 running backs for 2024. And by the way, our sleepers, guys that we think could really take the next step and potentially be in the top 5 come August. But let's break down the top 5 before. If you haven't checked out the other videos, go to the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel and check out all the other content we have posted on the top 5 running backs. But here's our top 5. For Sky Gawasko, you could get his top 5 here. Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, and CMC. For me, it's Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyren Williams, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, and Christian McCaffrey. Now, you know our top 5s. Now, Sky, tell us who's the one guy that you have ranked outside your top 5 that you feel like could be in your top 5 come August?
Well, there's a handful of them, Bob. And I had mentioned in a previous episode here that at number 6, literally just outside my top 5, I have Jonathan Taylor. We've also debated Kyren Williams, Saquon Barkley. Kyren Williams is number 7 for me, so he's also outside my top 5. But for me, at RB20 right now, which is insane, Alvin Kamara is my 8th running back, and he's my favorite running back in the NFL. Has been for like 3 seasons.
Dude.
I can't put him in my top 5 because I don't trust the Saints. But if it's just Alvin Kamara versus a bunch of these guys, he's probably top 3.
Sorry to cut you off. What the hell is going on with ADP with Alvin Kamara? They're
worried about the Saints. They're worried about the Saints. They're worried about Derek Carr.
What would you be concerned? Clayton Kubiak, who just came from San Francisco with CMC, is now the offensive. What is going on? Help me understand, because I don't get it.
This is the tough part about us being analysts, Bob, is like our job is to be out here and give people gold nuggets so they can go win their fantasy leagues. That's what we're here to do. I'm also here to keep ADP low for the guys I want so that I get them on all my teams, so that my friends that watch these shows don't gobble up my dudes. And Alvin Kamara is always that guy. Last year, he missed 3 games. Okay. So cumulative stats wise, he's not going to be as high as everybody because he missed 3 games. That's what happens. When he came back, he led all running backs with 75 receptions. Let's not forget the first 3 years he was in the league, including his rookie season, he had exactly 81 receptions. Okay. Wow. He was the number 3 on the depth chart behind the GOAT, Adrian Peterson, Mark Ingram, and then it was Alvin Kamara, right? Coming out of Tennessee, Alabama product, which I think people forget. So you got to put a little more street cred on his name. But he ended up surpassing everybody, top running back that year. Then he's the RB3 with just 6 touchdowns in PPR leagues. Folks, I need you to think about that for a second. He's the RB3 in PPR leagues with 6 touchdowns. He gets double-digit touchdowns, which he's done multiple times in his career. He's top 5, right? Just automatically with what he does through the air. And then he had 1,100 yards on the ground, okay? So if he goes for, let's say, double-digit touchdowns overall, 80-plus receptions, which he does in his sleep, and 1,000 yards on the ground, not to mention whatever he's going to do in the air, Alvin Kamara is top 5. And again, I know we always keep saying this, like, well, if it happens to player, I don't want to start hexing guys. But if anything happens to the guys ahead of him, Alvin Kamara could be top 5 again. I have him at top 8 because he's one of my favorite guys in the league. If I was drafting today, Bob, he's a 5th-round pick. A 4th-round pick, maybe, if people are paying attention. It's silly. He's not suspended. He's not injured. Alvin Kamara is going to be my dog forever, right? And I think people are worried about his age and all this kind of stuff. He's the same age as Christian McCaffrey. You have to, which is the best running back draft class of all time, but you have to consider that he's not taking the same type of hits a lot of these guys are. He's very elusive, as we know. You never see him take a big hit. He's very good in the passing game. They put him in open space constantly. Jahmyr Gibbs will be Alvin Kamara as Alvin Kamara moves out of the league, but we still have Alvin Kamara. So if I can get Jahmyr Gibbs and Alvin Kamara on my fantasy team, Bob, I'm winning championships.
There is, by the way, last season, he left his last game against the Bucs early, and then he missed the final week, right? So he played 12 games last year healthy. He averaged 18.3 PPR points per game.
Quietly. Nobody talked about that all.
That would have been RB3 last year in fantasy football. Yeah. The craziest part is he's turning 29. We have done extensive research on this. There is no drop-off because he turns 29. And like you brought up, he doesn't even have the mileage on the ground because a lot of his touches come through the air. The craziest part is, what did the Saints do this offseason? Tell me what the Saints did to add competition. By the way, their number 2 wide receiver, Rashid Shaheed, is a deep threat. Chris Olave is not 180. He's not Michael Thomas, by the way, when it comes to volume of targets. Their Juwan Johnson is still their tight end 1. He's going to get targets again. Derek Carr is a pocket passer. Derek Carr will check. I have him at RB8 as well. I have him 15th overall, 37 spots higher than ADP. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. He's not my pick here, but like so the one thing I've heard numerous times was from Nick Underhill, a bunch of other people, is that I think a lot of people are hesitant because of their backup running back. Why can't I think of his name? Kendra Miller. The first thing that came out was that Dennis Allen said he wants to see more consistency from the kid. That doesn't sound like a guy that is going to be taking over the running back. No, of
course not.
Kendra Miller is a talented guy. I'm not saying he is not. But to be honest with you, he has to pass up Jamal Williams first on the running back totem pole. I think that Alvin Kamara this season has another year of being an elite player. By the way, Derek Carr is not trying to help out a young rook here. He wants his veteran stud running back who he can rely on. Please, for the love of God, take Alvin Kamara in the second round every chance you get.
Yep.
My pick, though, is Devon Achane. So, Devon Achane, like, I had to spend so much time bringing down his numbers because what he did last year was absurd. Ridiculous. So, just to give you context, I do an analysis called points per rush attempt. So, essentially what I've done over the years, I've looked at, and I got a database of, dozens of running backs where how many fantasy points they generate every single time they touch the ball. So it basically counts yards and touchdowns per carry. So he averaged 1 fantasy point per carry. The league average is like 0.5. So it's not even real. In my database, there's only 3 notable running backs, by the way, and there's been other guys. And when I say notable, I mean like legit guys who had legit touches. There's guys in my database that had 1 yard and 1 fantasy point per carry. And they were like, I think one was like Andre Brown. Remember Andre Brown, the Giants running back?
Yeah, of course.
It was like weird. Mike Gillisley, remember had that 1 year where you just went off?
Ajayi had a nice one.
Yeah, there's like random guys. I was like,
Ronnie Brown.
I'm not bringing up this guy. So, of course, the guy who had 1 fantasy point per carry was twice Alvin Kamara.
Yep.
The other guy was J.K. Dobbins, okay? The next year, they dropped off from 1 to about 0.7, okay? Which is still elite, by the way. Average is about 0.5. 0.7 is where they dropped off to. If you give him a 0.7 fantasy points per rush attempt, his fantasy points drop from 21 to 17.4. You factor in all that, he's still going to be a top 5 to 6 running back. Now, the question comes, can he continue? Like, what's the Mostert split? I do have a little bit of like Fred Jackson in my ear for Raheem Mostert.
Good drop.
Like old school CJ Spiller. Everyone was drafted CJ Spiller in round 1, and Fred Jackson was floating around in like the 9th round. And he ended up being so good in his 30s. And I could see Raheem Mostert being that guy too. So I'm ahead on Raheem Mostert again this year. But the thing with Devon Achane is like, if you start normalizing his numbers based on how explosive he was last year, he's still elite. And by the way, I have him technically higher than Jahmyr Gibbs, but I moved Gibbs ahead because, one, it just seems like Devon Achane can't stay healthy. Just seems like it kind of keeps getting nicked up. The other thing is like the other thing with Gibbs too is like I love that like all their games were indoors, and it just seems like all those he's just going to have more stability. But I don't know. I could be duped real hard. You give me a couple of Devon Achane highlights from OTAs. I'm gonna be like, you know what? Let's put him in the first round. Well, folks, that's pretty much the big argument today. Leave a comment and let us know your thoughts, and make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel.